Hey there, folks. In this episode, we have no idea what we're about to say because we have no idea what you are about to ask. And with that, welcome to this episode of Amy and TJ Robes. It's been a while. It was one of our favorite things early on, but we haven't done it again. Take questions.
That's right. And so we had our producers reach out on social media to ask you all what you wanted to know from us. We have zero clue what the questions are, but we're excited to do our best to answer them.
Were there any rules? I don't think we said, hey, put this, don't do that. We kind of left it all in our producers' hands.
That's correct. We actually gave them no stipulations. So they can, and well, they is Emma, who is sitting right across from us, has the list of questions, and she's now going to be on the hot seat. She's the most nervous of the three of us right now, which is so funny.
We prepare. We do a lot of reading, research, and getting in questions. I'm so chill for this episode. I'm not nervous about what's going to be at. This is one we don't have to prepare for. We know the answers, don't we, baby?
We tell this to people all the time that we interview. We're not going to ask you a trick question. Yep. Anything we ask you, you are going to know because it's going to be about you. Mm-hmm. So the same rules apply right back at us, and I'm totally chill.
Now that we set it up that way, she's going to hit us with something we don't know at the top.
And we're going to be like, wait, what? No, we weren't expecting that, huh?
All right. Emma, since if anybody's who listens to our podcast, you know the name Emma. She hangs out with us in here all the time and helps us. She's one of our superstar producers, but she's got the questions today. So Emma, you take it away, kind ma'am. Let's start.
All right. First question. Rosie asks, if your life were a movie, what scene would you watch over and over again?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Damn, I got my answer.
Okay, go ahead so I can think of mine.
Ooh, it's not a positive necessarily. It was a fight we were in.
Okay.
There was a fight we were in. You were really upset, and you stormed out, and then you came back. You actually left. You slammed the door, left where we were.
I don't slam doors.
Yes. Calling Mr. Robach, Papa Robach. But we got into a fight that was, I believe, a turning point for our relationship because we learned what we were willing to sacrifice, what we were willing to do, and we learned that we were not willing to let this go and to fight for this relationship. That is a scene. It would be played over and over. It was like Notebook equivalent type of a scene. Wow. Okay,
yeah.
It was that kind of intense. That's the one I would play over.
Okay. I can totally get that. And I think for me, the one I would play over and over again was, for me, the night that I knew that we were going to be okay and that we were going to make it, because neither one of us were going to be okay if our kids weren't. And it was right after New Year's. We called it Fight Night, and it was your idea. And I don't even know who was fighting, but we got the package on whatever, pay-per-view. And Sabine, Ava, Annalise, and some friends all gathered in that room, and you cooked, and we all watched, and everybody, it felt safe. It felt joyful for the first time in a long time. And I knew we have just built, we've worked really hard. We've taken our time, and now we're going to be able to build on this. And I saw our life together.
Wait, how long ago was it? Are you talking about the most recent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For
me, that was in January of 2024. I think for me, when that night happened and I saw how beautiful and natural it felt, it wasn't perfect, but it was a place to start from where I felt like I could see us, with the grandkids, and I could see us in the backyard grilling, and all of our girls are there together, and I felt that joy, and I could rewatch that night because that was where things for me, I felt this new confidence that we were going to get through all of this stuff that had been so hard for us and for our daughters, that we were going to be able to build something.
I was trying to remember the fight night. That I think it was Deontay Wilder. It was like a dual card. It started earlier because it was over. Okay, and we had everybody. That was a long, fun, crazy day. The girls and friends were in, and it just felt like it was a family event and a family night. So I give you that one. Yes, Emma. You're up, Emma.
Jake asks, what skill or talent do you wish you had?
Oh, I wish that I could sing. I wish I could sing like Idina Menzel. I wish I could be Broadway caliber, vocal, like I've always loved singing. I loved I love Broadway musicals, but I've never had the talent to ever back up being able to even consider doing that for a living. So that would for sure be what I would want to do.
You know, it goes different way. It depends on what. Okay, at this stage, I will say, because like earlier points in my life when I was younger, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller, right? I mean, I wish I had that skill set. The older I get now, I wish I could play the piano. I really wish I could play the piano.
We could go on the road if I could sing and you could play the piano.
Wow, that's going to be a windy road. Some back streets there.
We both can do
performing.
it like a little bit, but because I've heard you play the piano and you're
I play one thing.
But
I literally play one thing.
Really sexy when you play piano.
Okay. It is.
The
only thing I play just because I love it. It's from a movie. In one scene, I play a riff of Purple Rain by Prince.
That's hot.
From the Purple Rain movie. If you'll remember, he went through all his dad's stuff after his dad shot himself. He's sitting at the piano and he sits down and he plays this little beautiful riff of Purple Rain. It might be one of the most beautiful short pieces of music I've ever heard. And I learned to play that. And that's the only thing I can play. That's sexy?
Yeah, very much so.
Let's get out of here so I can play you a tune.
Sounds like you should learn another song.
I should. Well, I'll get back to you, okay?
No.
I'm going to get back to you on that. You made me think of something. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Emma. But yes, next question.
All right. Greta asks, are either of you jealous? Follow up, who is more jealous?
Jealous, like of each other or other? What do you think she's meaning?
Or of just other people, probably just jealousy creeping into our relationship. I will say this. We have not been apart very often for me to get jealous. I think anytime, that is really a true statement.
No, I'm thinking about me going out with the boys.
So you went out with the boys the other night, and I remember I did ask, like, who are you with? And then you weren't answering who you were with. And I did feel a flicker of jealousy, like, are there girls there? Well, I just didn't know. I was like, you said you were hanging out with the boys. I was like, but are there girls there? And why isn't he telling me who's with them? And if there are girls there, why am I not there? And so I did feel a little flicker of jealousy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't ever. You should never feel that way. No. I am sorry. So you can finish that, but I don't want you to finish that.
No. Well, and so, but we have not really. Well, first of all, I think we trust in our relationship and we trust each other. That's it. But it was a small little flicker. But we just aren't apart for that to have ever actually been a thing that we've had to deal with.
So then that means maybe you would be jealous. You just haven't been challenged in that way.
I will say that I have always considered myself to not be a jealous person, to trust in what I uniquely bring to a relationship, and also trust that you specifically, I think you can't just say that in general. It has to be the person you're with. I think I can be and not be a jealous person. I could be put in a situation where then I would maybe feel jealous. But if you're with the right person, I hope that you wouldn't feel that way.
Baby, you don't have any. I am so sorry about the other night because you asked the follow up. And I was like, what is she talking about? You said I was being coy.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just with Charles and Seb and my.
Yeah.
We did go to a party. There were tons of women around, but they weren't with us.
Right. Fair.
So
and have you ever felt jealous?
No. You know what? It's probably ego. Like I have too much of an ego to get jealous about somebody else. Like I won't allow myself to do it. I think that's ego. That makes sense. It's stupid. Like I am above that, and I'm too. And that sounds kind of weird in that way, but I just trust and I don't worry. I get jealous that when she said it, one of the first things came to my mind, where sometimes this is not what they probably meant. I get jealous of you. I get jealous of you. And some of your life experience, putting you in a mindset that you don't have to worry about some of the same shit I worry about.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, she doesn't have to. She doesn't even care that she just blew right past that cop. Like she doesn't even care that like those little experiences in life where I am having to be on edge or where I am having to feel like I got to try a little harder or I have to put a little more effort in is all this thing to where, wow, she doesn't have to worry about that. So I say I'm jealous of you. But I'm jealous of a lot of people in that regard, in that experience that I see differently because I'm next to you all the time. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
That makes sense.
All right, next question. Who is a person you would switch places with for a day and why?
All right.
Man, you're not going to believe what I'm about to say.
Okay, go for it.
Damn. Man. Oof. You know what? Fuck it. I used to for a long time would say I would
I love that this is hard for you.
Well, it's hard because of some recent headlines.
Oh.
And Justin Timberlake.
Really?
Justin Timberlake is a wildly talented. He's still a young guy, but he's a family guy. He's always seemed like he's having fun. He's had this good energy. He can sing and dance, all these. He can act, but he was someone I always just look from afar. I'm like, wow, he looks like he's having a good time. That looks fun.
I like that.
And I would love to have that talent that he has. But he always was someone I looked at. That first thing came to mind. But obviously, some of the recent headlines, that's why I hesitated.
It can all still be true, yes. Right? I mean, yes, I hear you. I would say I would love to trade places. I've brought this person up a lot, but I've always looked up to her. And so I'd love to live a day in her life, especially at the age she's at with the experience she's lived. Miss Goldie Hawn. I just think she is somebody who embraces life, and she doesn't, like, she dances like nobody's watching. She laughs with this just joyful energy. She's funny. She has a beautiful family, and it's not conventional. And I would love to spend a day in her life. I've always been in awe of her.
You know, the crazy thing, you said you want a day in her life, but it almost sounds like you want to live your life the way she has lived hers, which I don't think you're necessarily that far off from. As far as that kind of sounds, I know you admire her, but so much of what she does are the things I think you try to do and are doing to a great degree. So
thank you. And I think you have moves like JT.
None.
I've never seen you dance before.
Okay, I'm selling myself a little short, maybe.
He's got good moves.
But I can.
He can dance.
I'm sure.
I like dancing.
Okay. Sam asks, are there any topics you will never talk about on your podcast?
Yes. The answer
Probably,
is yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's a bunch of stuff, probably. I mean, I don't want to get outlandish, but there's some things that we talk about us and what's going on at home to a certain degree, but I think there are some details and some intimate things I think you can go too far in discussing. But for anybody else, that's fine. But as far as other topics, we don't want to. We'll talk to a politician, but we are not going to give our opinion about politics. But we're trying to, I think, other than that,
and we
won't talk about.
There are certain, I think, privacy issues for other people who are in our lives. We would never be disrespectful of anyone else's privacy. So, yeah, there are just certain people who we are close to or who we were once close to, who we will not discuss for a myriad of reasons. But I just think most of it is respect.
Absolutely. All right, next question is in lieu of what you are training for. But Francis asks, what is your goal marathon time?
Ha ha ha. I mean, I've always had a goal to have a sub-4, and I have yet to achieve it. And it was funny, as I was struggling on my run the other day, I thought to myself, it's okay if you don't. And I think that's where I am right now. Yes, I would love to hit a 3:59. But if I never do better than 4:14, I am so okay with that. So it's aspirational, but it's not something that I, at this stage of my life, am going to push myself past comfort, like extreme discomfort, because running a marathon is not comfortable. But I don't want to push myself to the point where I feel like somehow I failed or I fell short if I don't get a certain time. I think when I was younger, if I had started running marathons earlier, I would have been a lot more competitive with myself. And now I'm more about giving myself a break.
My goal is, if I'm running one with Robes, is to always finish 1 second after she does. And that really is. We do all this training together. We're going to run the marathon together. So I go with whatever pace. That is always. So Chicago, I want my time to be 1 second after hers and cross right next to her and right behind her. And that's it.
How about New York?
You know what? Should I say it out loud? 3:45. How about that?
Nice. All right.
3:45 marathon.
Cool.
So I should probably not say that out loud.
No runner ever wants to say what their goal time is. They just don't, but we all kind of have one in our heads.
I'm certainly a sub-4, but if I could get closer to 3:45, I would go crazy.
That's awesome.
Well, you can take that as a form of manifestation. Saying it out loud is the way you're going to see it. See you cross the line and see that number.
Look at Emma giving us some of that. She's been listening to some of the wisdom of our guests.
Melissa asks, what is the story behind Amy's promise necklace?
Melissa asked that question? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, mind your business. No. When this is us for when is that what they say? What you won't talk about? At what points do some very intimate things, details, nuggets such as that become things we are comfortable talking about in a public space? I don't know. Do you think that time is now on that particular thing? Like, given there's history there.
Yes,
What?
I would leave that to you.
No. We're in this together, or haven't you heard? We're in a relationship.
We're in a relationship.
So
we are.
This is a partnership.
I think we've chosen up until now not to go into the details, and so when we want to, we will, and we might one day, but now is not the time.
So apologies to Melissa there on that question. That is one of those. And again, maybe when we talk about it later, like, that's all it was. But for the time being, there are a few things that are incredibly sacred between me and Robes that I don't think we will let anybody in on, maybe ever.
Right.
And right now, that necklace might be one of them.
Next question. Alana asks, why did Amy spend a night in prison? Storytime, please.
I had a feeling this would come up at some point.
And we discussed this after it came up briefly when we were talking to Tiffany Haddish. We discussed, I thought you had told that story before. And we wondered if we should later, if we just, would you let it go? But here you are. And this is your call, Robes. And again, we can edit this out later.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'll tell it and I'll decide if we want to air it. How about that? I'll tell it succinctly. I was a few months away from being 21.
I'm going to give commentary throughout.
Okay.
Because I've heard this story a bunch.
There's a couple things. So I was 20 years old, right before my junior year in college. And
how old were you again?
20.
Okay. When was your birthday? How
February.
Soon
So it was like 6 months before my birthday.
Away.
It was like August, and then I was going to be 21 in February.
An important detail, people.
Yes, very important. And I had not gotten a car. I was driving the bus to and from work, and so I had gotten a job, and my parents and I negotiated that I was going to finally get my first car and to go back and forth to my job in Athens, Georgia. And my dad insisted that I get a stick shift because he wanted me to learn how to drive a stick. No matter where I was in the world, I'd always be able to drive somewhere. And so it was my second night. I think my second night I had the car. I didn't drive my stick shift very well, but I was so excited to drive this car that I told my girlfriends, I'll drive to the Lambda party. So it was, I think, a Saturday night, and I had, I believe, 2-3 beers early in the night. Now it's like 2:00 in the morning. I had stopped drinking for several hours, and all of my friends decided that they had found someone that was Mr. Right Now. I did not partake in that. I believe I was dating someone at the time. So I decided to drive home by myself in my stick shift car at 2 a.m. It was about less than a mile. But as you might imagine, it might have looked like I was intoxicated. I got pulled over.
Wait, why did it look like you were
because
intoxicated?
I was driving a stick shift for the second day of my life. And it was jerky and...
Wait a minute.
Absolutely true. And so I was driving. It was so dumb of me. I'm going to drive a car.
You never told me this
Stick
part
shift.
of the story.
I didn't?
You're telling me that you got pulled over because you were a shaky stick shift driver
Correct.
at the time.
Correct. I got pulled over in the parking lot
Which
of my apartment
could
complex.
look like a DUI.
Correct. So I had a field sobriety test. They called in a breathalyzer. I blew a 0.0.
Mm-hmm.
But herein lies the rub. I told the police officer that I was 21, so I did not tell the truth. I told him I didn't have my driver's license on me because the driver's license I had was the one that I won't say who helped me, change the 73 to a 70 to make it look like that was my version of a fake ID, and I obviously didn't want him to see the fake ID. So he said he would let me go if I could prove that I lived in the apartment complex. So I opened up my wallet to show him my apartment, and he saw the ID. He goes, "There's your driver's license." I was like, "Oh, wow, look at that." And so I handed it to him because I had to, and he looked at it, and he obviously knew, and he said, "I'm going to take this with me." I said, "Okay, you do that. Thanks. Bye." And I went on my way. 2 weeks later, I was going to a dental appointment at my parents' house in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And I came back, and there was a sheriff's deputy in my driveway waiting for me. And bottom line, the cop 2 weeks later, I think they didn't have enough arrests. They have these quotas, these things at the end of the month they have to fill. And they went back and looked at all the police reports and thought, aha, we can arrest her for tampering a government ID and minor in possession because I admitted to the police officer that I had had 2 beers earlier in the night. So anyway, they actually put me in jail in Gwinnett County, and then Athens Clarke County, to prove that they had a quota issue, decided to extradite me. So I had to stay in prison in Gwinnett County for hours. Then an officer from Athens Clarke County came, took my shoelaces. I mean, I got handcuffed and shackled, put into the back of a police car, and then put into another holding cell. And so I spent 9 hours behind bars before my mom was able to actually bail me out. I got credit for time served upon sentencing. I pleaded nolo. I don't have a conviction, but I do have an arrest record. There's the long story and a very important lesson learned.
It's a really long story.
Sorry.
Jesus, criminy.
Anyway.
Wow.
I was extradited, credit for time served, and 2 prison cells. Oh, not prison, jail cells.
You know what? That was a lot of issues I took with that story because you took some liberties that you've never taken before.
Really?
But it's fine.
My
It's
parents
fine.
could back it all up.
We can. Well, they aren't here, are they?
But we can call them.
You want to do that now?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't need a lifeline.
No. It's fine.
Ben asks, what does your family think about the podcast? Are they, especially your daughters, listening?
Mine isn't. No, family. That's just not how my family rolls. Robes, you hear from somebody every single episode we put up. I don't hear anything unless I ask. So they're just different. And I guess my folks are used to a little old school. They used to just hitting a button on the remote and turn on the TV, and there he is. Now that takes a little more work to maybe pick up the phone and find this and that. But no,
Your dad said he was listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
He was absolutely into it. They listen, I'm sure, to every episode.
Yeah, but they never tell me they do. We were talking to him, and it came up randomly on the phone or something because I was surprised. I was like, I didn't even know you listened. But
they are huge supporters, and they listen. My parents and my mom is one of 9. My dad's one of 6. So I get, as TJ pointed out, a text from an aunt or a cousin or a family member almost after every podcast, and I really appreciate it. And my daughters listen. I don't think they listen to every episode, but they listen, and they did, I think, early on all the time. But now it's like, yeah, okay, 3 a week is a lot to keep up with. So, but they listen if I tell them, hey, you should really, really listen to this episode. But yeah, we have support.
What episodes have you told them to listen to?
Well, like with Ava, if it's something like an artist coming up, like I told her to listen to Rachel Platten because there's a person who she might want to learn from in terms of how she made it into the music business, how she made it and had to scrap and fight and build her way up into the industry. So I've just told her a couple times, like, hey, I think you could get some nuggets from this person. You should listen to this podcast.
I love that. Awesome. Michelle asks, what has been the biggest challenge about the podcast?
Workflow for us. We know how to broadcast. You can give us notes, give us an interview subject, give us some research. We can do all that stuff. But I guess we're in a position now as executive producers of something to come up with ideas and make sure we put plans in place and make sure we have the structure and the rundown. And it's just more of it's not just a matter of not having the help. This is just a new muscle and a new industry almost we're having to learn. So that for us, and a lot of that we have learned a lot, and it feels so much better and different and good to sit here. But that was a learning curve for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when we were in broadcasting, we always worked together, so we knew we could do that well, but we were directed as to what to do and who said what, when. And so we were kind of following instructions, and we had took licenses and liberties creatively, but we were under a very specific structure. So this has been a huge learning curve to have kind of anything and everything be a possibility. Who does what, who takes on what role, who writes this, who comes up with ideas. It's just, it's been a little bit of a struggle in some moments, but I think we're in a really good place now and a really good flow right now. So we're feeling good about it. But yeah, the first few months were tough.
You set me up for my next question from Devin. How has your relationship with how the public perceives you changed from your first podcast episode to recording now?
Okay. Well, it's easy to say this. I've always tried to live by it. I know you have too. If you believe the good things people say about you, then you have to believe the bad. You can't just pick and choose. I mean, it's like you can't get swept up, I guess, in whatever people are saying about you. You have to know who you are and where you're coming from and what your intent is. However, I will say, as a human being, the other day, we try not to read the comments, but I think you were there when Ava and Anna were kind of yelling like, hey, Mom, have you seen the comments lately? They're really good. Like, people are really supporting you guys. And so in a weird way for me, knowing that my daughters see the support for us makes me feel good, that they feel it's a hard thing for anyone who loves someone, but especially maybe a child to a parent, to see someone who they thought was up on a pedestal, who people like, to suddenly be considered the opposite, like a pariah or whatever. So I felt good knowing that they were seeing positive comments and support, and that made me feel good as a human being. I mean, I wish I could say I wasn't affected by any of that, but for sure, I do feel a more positive, warm feeling when I think about hopefully what most people, or hopefully at least some people, think of us.
Don't you think it made a difference as well when we start getting out more and actually interacting with more people, and you're just not sitting behind a damn door with your phone?
Yeah.
And oftentimes the folks who are lobbing things at you, on social media and things, aren't the folks who are trying to send a positive message. So I think once we started getting out and interacting and seeing, not friends, we saw friends, but just members of the general public, and how, yes, it's not everybody hates you. Not everybody thinks the worst of you. And also, I think once since our first podcast, it's slowly but surely people are getting more of an idea of what actually happened with us, which is not what they were told when everything went down. I think once people understand and hear the story a little more, it's making a huge difference as well. So it's shifted a lot since the very beginning.
Abby asks, what is your biggest ick about each other?
Oh. Mine is really simple. I've told you this, and I'm not just saying, like, I just like watching you. That sounds creepy, but I like almost everything about you, even the things that just make you uniquely you. The one thing you do that drives me crazy is you pop your right elbow, and you do it multiple times a day. But I can live with that. It's okay. But I can't really think of anything else. Oh. You just like to sleep diagonally across the bed. That's tough. That's it. I'm done.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
I think there's probably more. That's all you got?
That's all I can think of right now.
Okay. So to answer this, I am going to defend myself against your two wild accusations. The elbow, I don't think it was an injury, but it was a habit. Like anybody else's, something gets tight and you pop it like a knuckle. My elbow gets tight, and yes, I do. But you have told me you didn't like it, and I have tried to not do it as much. I still do it in front of you. I know I do, but I am aware of it and I'm conscious of it. 2, sleeping across the bed. I think anybody here who's listened to the podcast knows that TJ likes to sleep with the TV on. The TV's always on. So if the TV is at the foot of the bed, that direction, if I'm watching TV, I can put myself in a sleeping position that to watch TV, all I have to do is open my eyes. If I want to go to sleep, just close the eyes. Don't have to change position at all. I'm not on my back. I'm not. If you're at that angle, perfect viewing, perfect sleeping. Why that doesn't make sense to you, I will never understand.
Because it doesn't really give me any room to sleep. That's the problem. Sometimes I put my legs over your body because I'm sleeping the way most people sleep, which is lengthwise.
You always get more sleep than I do.
That's true.
You sleep more soundly and longer. Your problem is what? No, I get what you're saying. I sleep like that all the time when I'm not in the bed with you.
Right.
When I am in the bed with you, then I know better.
Yes.
Than to do that. But it's funny when you come out of the bathroom sometimes.
He does it on purpose.
Yeah.
I come in, I'm like, really? And he's completely like taking up the whole bed.
That's just to be
And then
funny.
acts like he's dead weight and can't move.
That's just to be funny. I said this. I kind of want to take a high road approach to this, but it's too convenient maybe. They brought this up not too long ago, this idea of your ick about somebody. I hated the idea of trying to find something I didn't like about you. Like to intentionally look at you and say, let me figure something. It's just to put myself in that mindset. I got annoyed when I was trying to do it previous, and somebody had asked me. So I was like, why participate in that exercise? But if I'm being honest,
Please do. Please do.
an ick. I don't know. What do I complain about with you? What do I say, babe? Why are you doing that? What do I do?
This is an,
What do I say?
chewing.
The chewing?
I pop my gum.
Yeah.
And that's annoying. And then the interrupting.
Yeah.
I'm not excusing because it's rude, but I didn't realize how rude it was because I was just so enthusiastic, first of all, to say something, but also I was afraid that I'd forget it in 3 seconds if I didn't say it. That's my worst habit. Like, my brain does not retain. If I have an idea, if I don't say it right away, it's gone. But it's rude, and I hopefully have gotten better.
Okay. But I was thinking more of, what you're talking about there. That's a habit you can change versus, I don't know. I'm looking at, is there something about you, an ick about you? I don't know if there's I don't know. Maybe, as soon as we're going to leave here, I'm going like, wow.
Yeah, he's gonna have a list.
Things. I don't have an ick that I have. The chewing, not even the snoring.
Oh yeah, I do snore.
You're a snorer.
Yeah,
a big time snorer.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you snore. What do you do? People snore. It's normal function.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
There was a trend on TikTok actually for the friend that interrupts any sort of silence and they just want to chat with their friend, was to give them a notepad and to write down all of their questions, comments, ideas, and then present the notepad after.
Smart.
You think you can do that? Yeah, I know you can. This sounds offensive. We talk about you can't do two things at once. You don't excel at doing that. Something as simple as we could be in the middle of a conversation while we're getting ready to go run, and you can't put your shoes on and talk to me at the same time. And I say, baby, stop talking, put the shoes on so we can go.
Yeah.
And if you put the shoes on, the conversation stops.
I need to focus.
Yeah, you do, but you will focus on that one thing. But when you do multiples, it gets tricky.
Sophie asks, who are each of your role models, alive or dead?
I can name one of them for me, Diane Sawyer. I have always marveled at her ability to do her job and to do it with such grace. She has been and was such a beautiful mentor to me. The moment I met her, I could barely even speak in her presence because I had been watching her and studying her the moment I knew I wanted to be a journalist. But she's just a beautiful mind and just a smart woman who I have just always wanted to emulate in my career, and definitely has been a role model in my life.
I will go with Ambassador Andrew Young from Atlanta, who the first African American that served as UN ambassador under Clinton, former mayor of Atlanta. But he was someone I just in my time and living in Atlanta and working down there at CNN, I got to know and got to travel with and got to just sit. I know I annoyed the hell out of him a lot, but I got access to him at times, and I would just sit like a kid, just trying to learn and take in every bit of information he had. And he's one of the most incredible deal makers and able to put people together in a way that I've never, ever seen before. His life, his legacy, his resume, it speaks for itself. But he is someone I was just always in awe of and amazed by, going from marching with Martin Luther King to the UN ambassador, mayor, and Congress, all these things he's done. That dude's incredible. So he would be my guy.
Charlotte asks, if living in New York was no longer an option, where would the two of you live?
Okay, you know it already?
Atlanta, right? Is that what you would say?
Oh, I was going to say 1, 2, 3, what?
I was looking for a tax-free state.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia is a place that we both know and love, and that would probably be the place I would think we would do well in. But I could live, this sounds so cheesy, but I could live almost anywhere as long as I was with TJ. Like, it really wouldn't matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I'm with you there. Atlanta would have to be my folks are in Memphis. Yours are right outside of Atlanta. It would just make sense for us. I was trying to think of a fun town. Like, it wasn't a family situation, where could we be? Where would we want to be?
New Orleans, Miami. I even love Nashville. I mean, there's a lot of places I could live, but I've noticed I've just said everything in the South.
We just said every place I like to visit. I've never thought about making any of those places home.
True.
Right? I love going to those spots. But yeah, Atlanta is just such a home. Memphis is home. Even internationally for us, I think London would probably be in our top 3 places if we were considering.
We could live in London and really, really excel.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Lane asks, what are your favorite quotes or phrases you live by?
Oh, I have a list.
I don't have a list. Some stuff I could reel off. Don't let perfect get in the way of good.
Mm-hmm.
Money is what people without talent use to keep score. A Bible verse, do not fret because of evildoers, nor be envious of the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. I like that one.
I got a few if you want.
Oh, okay.
Keep going. Keep going.
No,
keep going. I'm impressed. This dude can memorize. Like, your brain is the opposite of mine. You retain everything, and it's remarkable. I'm in awe that you can just spout these off. I, again, have just pulled up my Apple Notes list so I can read off of mine, but please continue.
No. This is the first things that kind of come to mind. I'm a big quotes guy, so
yeah,
I'm not even sure what I just reeled off.
I'm sorry. Well, if you could, I didn't want to. I did interrupt you. That's what I just did. My apologies. I have anything that's happening to you is actually happening for you. That's one of my favorites. Comparison is the thief of joy. I love when what you appreciates. It is not about belongings. It's about belonging. Those are some of the things I love. And then don't be invested in outcomes. I think that's been a huge part for me. And instead of being defensive, be defenseless. That's a really tough one for me, but I try to remind myself of that, usually after the fact, maybe not when I'm in the middle of it. And you know what? I told you about this. Michael Strahan, I write down quotes when I see them that help me live better or just to remind me of where I want to place my focus. But Michael Strahan on the set of Good Morning America said this to me one day, and I wrote it down. So I have to give it to him. You can't complain about something you're not trying to fix. And I love that.
Okay. I got tons. I was still taking notes on them, but I got quotes forever. So I'll leave it at the ones
I was just listening to Kevin from The Office, and he recited the last line from the final season. And he said, there's beauty in ordinary things.
I love that.
Really like.
I do too.
Okay, last question is from Kristen. She asks, who is someone you would love to interview on this podcast and why?
Jennifer Lopez. Why? Because I think that lady needs a break and a safe somewhere to express herself. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's other places she could do that and find some sincerity, but there's just so much going on that I almost feel like it's giving her in particular, but the two of them, like just a hug, just a big old hug. So I would love to get those two in here, not for the sake of, you know what, I would like to talk to them and we never have to air the episode. I would like to get in a room with them and just say, hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah. I mean, so many people just, if they're in a safe space, actually have so much wisdom based on what they've experienced that they probably will never feel free or safe to share. So yeah, I would love that too. I would love to interview Will Smith. I had just finished reading his book when I think it was maybe a couple months before the Oscars, the slap heard around the world happened. And I would love to see, he had so much wisdom in all the life he had lived that he put into his book that I listened to training for my first marathon. I actually listened to the audiobook of it. It's a great book. But given what happened since that and where he is now, I would love to talk to him.
That's funny. You mentioned you read the book and all that. That was the last time I talked to him.
Wow.
Was the interview we did in Philadelphia. He was promoting that book. But yeah, I wonder what, we just saw Bad Boys 4
we did.
Not too long ago. So I mean, he's back out there. That movie did well. So who knows what's coming, but just for people who've experienced and gone through something to that level. And I get what you're saying there.
Alec Baldwin and Hilaria. Like I would love to talk to them too. I think, we're so quick to judge, and just people who've had to go through it, who are looking for maybe that second, third, fourth chance that I think hopefully most of us deserve. So I just love really getting to understand not only what people have been through, but what they've learned from it.